pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, so we've also been sharing our vision, mission, and core beliefs. And last month we did the first half of our core beliefs, and this month we will do the second half. We believe in assessments that are authentic, meaningful, appropriate, and helpful in guiding students' futures in whatever vocation they choose. We believe in technology that enhances learning, enables education in varying environments, and prepares students for current and future technological advances. We believe facilities should provide a safe, clean, and effective learning environment. We believe in proper stewardship of resources that support the sustainability, security, and effectiveness of our school district. All right, the next agenda item is recognitions, the elementary.
You want me to step up there? You guys got
Come on up on camera.
here. So, I just have a few things. It's summertime, so there isn't really a whole lot going on. Troy's back here, so I got to say something nice about him. So I do want to recognize.
Yeah, we can pass.
Yeah, I do. So he already threatened me.
Right.
Our custodial maintenance staff has done a great job. They've been put out there. Elementary is just total. Just chaos down there as far as everything being torn out, and so we've invaded this side with our summer school and such, and so these guys are put out of their element as well, and they're really getting after it. And so I do want to say a lot about our custodial and maintenance staff, because they haven't quit. Anything we need, they're right on it. They're always busy. So anytime you call them, they'll drop what they're doing and come help you out. So I do want to recognize them for all their hard work. With that, I mentioned summer school. We had 80 students across 7 grade levels, kindergarten through 6th grade, that were signed up for summer school. There's a couple of those that I don't think ever showed up, so probably more like 75-ish probably when it's all said and done. But started off kind of rocky. We started a new program called Classworks, where they take an entry-level kind of test to find out where they're at and what their needs are, and then it gives them assignments that target those needs. So we were, it's new. We went through several training sessions, and even after we started, we did some training sessions that first week. I think 2 of them that I can remember as a group, and then the teachers individually would reach out. And so Classworks did a really good job having somebody available for us, which was very helpful to start a new program. And I think it's going really well. The teachers have given me positive feedback on that. Kids seem to enjoy it as well. So I'm hoping that, and it's really cool because I can get on there and I can monitor how they're doing when they go back and they do their checkpoint test, if you will. And I am seeing improvement in most of our students. So it's going well. It was a little bit of a rocky start, especially with transportation, but we sat down with the bus driver and got some of that worked out. I had to do that a couple times, and everything seems to be up and running and going well. I think we got 1 more week, so we will finish July 2nd. Now, kindergarten and 1st grade only went 2 weeks, so they will be done tomorrow, and then we got 1 more week for grades 2 through 6. So
And you have that in how lunch has gone and the afternoon program.
So we do morning. Everybody gets breakfast in the morning when they come in. They can deny it if they want to. We kind of try to talk them into taking one. And in the afternoon, when we're done, everyone goes up to the cafeteria and gets a lunch. And again, they can deny it if they want to, but they're all going up there as a group. And then we have some that stay for the after-school program. And some of them come back down here because their parents are picking them up out here as well. So that was another thing too, is having to work with parents, because they're so used to going over there that even though we sent word that everything was up here, I think over half of our students were back there, and we actually had to send the bus around to pick them up to bring them back because they couldn't enter down there. But it was all right. And then we contacted parents again, and we got it all worked out. But it's went really well, and I haven't really talked to Maureen the last few days, but it was last time I did talk to her, she said we were getting good numbers. And so that helps them. That helps our, cash flow in our cafeteria as well by them taking those lunches. I'm not sure how all that works. You have to talk to Tran or Marie more than me, but I know there's kind of you put it out there and they get refunded for what
Where the community's able to come in and get lunch. as
Community's
well,
been able to come
different
in and
deals
get
I
and
was gonna
stuff.
ask if they were able to do that
Now,
as well.
they are, and they set it up on those indoors by, I call it the teacher's lot. or
It's like
flagpole lot.
community, students, families, yeah.
Yeah, families. And I don't know how that's going. I really haven't had a chance to talk to Marie to see what that, unless you have. I
Early on, I didn't.
really, I haven't lately. So it was kind of rocky at first, because I think last summer they were used to us bringing it to them. And then this year we were asking them to come get it. I know we have our bus drivers actually have dropped off a few weekly lunch packets, boxes for a few families that have requested it. But for the most part, I think they've been coming in, but I don't know what our numbers look like.
And how long is this gonna last, did you say?
I know it'll last through next week. It'll last through July 2nd. I don't know about after that, but I know it's through July 2nd. So. The only other thing that I had on here is I-read testing. I know the last time I talked to you about I-read testing, we had about 8 students that had to retake that did not pass the I-read. All but 2 of them passed it the next time around, and the 2 that didn't were kind of on our radar for retention before the I-read was taken. So I reached out to the parents. We've had that conversation about how we're going to move from there with them and got everything squared away there. So overall, given everything that's been going on, I'm kind of excited about those I-read scores, because to have that many, and on the retake, typically if a student fails I-read and they retake the test, they'll improve, but you don't see a huge jump. And we had three that jumped by more than 50 points, and 1 almost jumped 100 points, like 96, which is a huge jump. He just scored outstanding. So I don't know what went on the first time around, but the second time around, at least those 3 did super when it comes to that. And then the others all passed as well, like I said, except for those 2. And the 2 that didn't, one of them just missed it. I'm talking 10 points. They just missed it. So, and interestingly enough, when I looked at I think you can't look at the test, you can just look at the scores that are sent to you. But it wasn't the comprehension part that the person didn't do well, and it was the just this word knowledge part. Sticking a word in the sentence because you know the meaning of that word, basically, or you have an understanding of what that word means. That got them more than the comprehension, which is usually the opposite. You know what I mean? So I'm not sure again what was going on there, but so overall, I was pretty excited about the I-read test scores. So really, that's all I have as far as recognitions and all that kind of stuff. Again, Troy's here, so everybody be nice to him. He gets his feelings hurt if you don't like him up a little bit. So,
Mr. Riggleman, how did those scores or the percentage of pass rate compare this year to previous years?
well, we didn't take it last year. So the year before was my first year, and we had 100% pass rate that year, counting the retakes. We had 100%. So we were all but 2 this time around. So I don't really know the history per se before me, but I just remember everybody being excited that we had 100% that year that I arrived. So yeah, I don't have a whole lot else to go on. So I can say the schools that I've come from, and I've talked to a few schools that I know the principals and stuff, and one of them had like 12 that didn't pass the second time, and they just don't know what to do with that, because when a student doesn't pass I-read, you basically have 2 choices. They either repeat the grade, or you can move them along, but you have to provide 3rd grade ELA reading comprehension instruction. So they got to have that curriculum. And the problem is, I explained to parents that what I worry about when you do that is, I'm asking a student who didn't pass 3rd grade I-read test to now do the 4th grade curriculum, because by law we have to teach it, and the 3rd grade curriculum, so we're going to have them double up, and that's hard on kids. It's not like you can't do it, but it is hard. So everybody's got to be on board when you do that. And some of the principals that I've talked to that have multiple kids are looking at trying to do something like that. They're not sure how to do it. So luckily for us, we didn't have that scenario. Like I said, we were already looking at the two, they were young for their class, and they had struggled last year, and we bumped them up and tried hoping that they would get it going in 3rd grade, and then they struggled again in 3rd grade. So it'd be better for those two to probably retake. And, you know, again, when you, there's always a negative connotation when you retain a student. You know, obviously, it's always a negative, but you don't do it unless it's going to benefit that child. You know, in all my years of teaching high school, I never understood that. And you become an administrator and you look at it a little differently. And if it doesn't benefit the child and they're not going to gain anything from it, you don't necessarily retain, if that makes any sense. So I really believe that these two children will be a huge help to both of them. I'll be working on it. So, any questions? All right, I'll turn it over to Dave.
Yep.
You can see Bob.
All right, well, just have a few here to mention. First and foremost, we had graduation on Saturday, May 29th. We had 51 graduates and 3 who had certificate of completion that went through the commencement exercises. So that went real well. Really happy about that, and had good turnout by family. We've, as Mike mentioned, talking about summer school. We've had a successful summer school. We've had credit, so from the high school side, we've had credit recovery, summer health, and SAE, supervised active experience. We have, as of today, 33 credits earned in credit recovery. And I have one young lady working to get her credit to graduate. And she's informed me that tomorrow before break, she'll have that done. So I'm hoping so. And I'll recognize her at the July board meeting. But 33 credits is good. Anytime we've had kids, you know, get anywhere from, some have gotten 3, 2, 1, whatever they needed, and moved in on that. Summer health, we've had 11 there throughout the year, and they're earning that credit for that. Supervised ag, we had 35 enrolled. That kind of continues on throughout the summer, of course, and then Ms. Huffman will have those their projects tallied up there at the end of the school year. So we'll get those grades in there in August. But that's of course, Julie's program is big and going strong. And then this year, along with the elementary, we included junior high, and we had 10 8th graders and 17 7th graders that have been here. Now tomorrow is their last day. It's day 22 of summer school for the junior senior high tomorrow. And we had a couple days there we could play with there in there. So we're looking anywhere from 20 to 22 days that the kids had opportunities to do. And really appreciate the effort by all the summer school teachers. And pointing out the 7th and 8th grade teachers we've met routinely throughout the summer school to talk about the progress, because these kids are the ones that have the gaps from the school closure last year and this year. And, we're seeing where they're at, and are they going to be proficient? And then we'll have to make a decision whether they move on or whether we feel it necessary that they stay back. Julie had a successful summer ag camp that was hosted out here. She's, of course,
And goats.
I go, got a milk goat, didn't you? There you go. There you go. But that's part of the CCLC, the after-school program, the summer program in the afternoon. So the ag camp was a big hit. I was glad to see that they were able to participate in that with, not being able to last year. And then I want to mention the boys baseball. They made the sectional final this year. Close game, and I got beat 4-1. Shakamak then goes all the way to the state finals. So pretty good representation of we had a great fan base over there. If you were there or if you'd heard about it or not, Bluefield traditionally travels well, regardless of what it is. We always travel well. And that was just a point of case there at WRB. So looking forward to next year. And then I have several SWIAC All Conference recognitions here. First for softball, Kenzie Morris was All Conference. Malia Ramsey was honorable mention. For boys baseball, Brett Sherrard, Ryan Schulte, and Braxton Clark were all conference. Boone Hostlaw and Reese Schulte were honorable mention. Girls tennis, Kylie Shelton, Brooklyn Boer, Gracie Lowry, Kinley Moody, and Ansley Ross were all conference. Thade Hewlin and Lucy Allen were honorable mention. The boys track, Robbie Talbot was all conference. He won the high jump. Justin Beard was all conference twice, three times for the
winning the 800 meter, and then being a member of the 3200 meter relay and the 1600 meter relay team. On that 3200 meter relay team, we had Trenton George, CJ Sylvester, and Landon Myers along with Justin. And the 1600 meter relay team, we had Landon Myers again, Hunter Nykem, Justin, and Christopher Royal to do that one. And then we also had two golfers that made all conference, Brandon Gillen and Travis Priest. So really happy for that. And that's all the recognitions I have for tonight.
All right, thank you. And do we have any public comments regarding agenda items?
No.
All right, seeing none, we'll go on to the consent agenda.
All right, we have the minutes from the May 27th board meeting that you guys have in your packet. Also the executive session from May 20th as well. The treasurer's report.
Yeah.
We do monthly. All right, and then we have the non-certified and certified hires. And I won't read all those. They're listed there in your packet. Donations, I do want to read and thank all the people who have donated. It's a pretty long list, but we do want to recognize the people who donated. So in memory of Mike Brandstetter, Brad and Brenda Hughes, I won't read the amounts, but gave a donation. Darren and Lori Birch also gave a donation, so thank you. In memory of Rick Hudson, we had Bill and Carol Cheney, Rex and Shirley Hudson, Selena Kingsley, Bob and Bonnie Jackson, Bill and Elaine Bond, Lonnie and Anita Renard, Brad and Brenda Hughes, Darren and Lori Birch, David and Sue Johnson, Leon and Pam Allen, and Joe and Betty Nicholson gave in memory of Rick Hudson. Thank you for your gift to the athletic department. All those were athletic department donations. And then to the NJROTC, the Lincoln Elks, Harold Valley, and James Hamilton gave gifts to the NJROTC. And to the baseball program, Jesse and Tracy Crane gave a donation. And also for the athletic department, that's it. Yeah. And that is the consent agenda. Any questions before we move for approval?
Okay, we will pull Marissa Pinnick for a separate vote, but everything else will be as is. Yes.
For,
Landon.
non-certified.
Yeah.
We're just gonna pull her.
Yeah.
Marissa, Lena.
So, is there any comments, comments? Seeing none, do we have a motion?
Motion.
And do I have a second? All right, all in favor? All right, thank you. And for Marissa Pinnick, do I have a motion? And do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor? All right, thank you. And now for other business.
Okay, other business, request for approval of the NJROT instructor's contract. This is something that's done annually. It's contract with the NJROTC that we can have the instructor here. And that was included in your document. Any questions about that?
Okay, do I have a motion?
All motion.
Okay, and a second? All right, thank you. All in favor? All right, thanks.
All right. D, the request for approval of the handbooks for the elementary, middle school, and high school. Mr. Riggleman, Mr. Dean are going to just give a summary of those changes before we take that to a vote.
Can we do it from here, or do you want to stand up again?
Whatever you feel comfortable with.
I'm annoying, guys. On our side, a couple, little things like updating table of contents, adding this school year's calendar to our handbook. We added the vision statement, mission statement, and core beliefs, which are new, so we put those in our handbook up front there. I had to remove my potty training policy. Everybody laughed about that, but my first year here, we had a lot of kids coming to us, and they were not potty trained, at all. So I called around, asked other principals what you're doing, added a potty training policy where we asked them to do, basically said they had to be potty trained to start kindergarten. I mean, we tell them that for preschool. Well, I had a lady from DCS challenge that on a foster child, and I was told that from our state that you cannot demand them to be potty trained. I don't understand it and don't necessarily agree with it, but I was told not to do that. So now I changed it. I got rid of the potty training policy, and there is a statement of encouragement instead. We encourage them to have their children potty trained. So that was changed so that we are okay and we won't get into trouble for that. End of day transportation changes. We added that. We get a lot of last minute calls from parents where they change how their kid's going home. And Lana can attest, our bus drivers have to sit and wait 15, 20 minutes sometimes because we get a kid that goes to the wrong place. And because when it's last second like that, you know, we're asking parents to call the office. Parents are really bad about sending it to the teacher. Teacher doesn't check their email. So we're asking them to send it to the office so that we get that notice and we can get it out, but we have to have time to get it out to the teachers. So in an effort to kind of clean that up a little bit at the end of the day, we changed the time that they have to have it into us by 2:15. So, and I put in parentheses at least 45 minutes prior to the end of the day, because as we know, on Fridays we're out at 2, so we wanted it 1:15. And I'm going to, beginning with school here, when I get ready to send a message out to parents, I'm going to highlight that, because I think it's important that we put that out there. It's just, we had a couple of times we got kids that they were dropped off at home because the parents sent the message to the teacher didn't check their email because they're busy with their normal duties. And the students at home, the teacher calls us at the end of the day, frantic because, and we've had to send an SRO out to meet the bus to get the student. And a few times the student already gone off the bus, and that's scary. So this is more for the protection of and the safety of the students. And so we figure if we can get it 45 minutes before the end of the day, then we'll have time to process it and get it to people that need to know. So that we can get them on the proper bus or get them out back for parent pickup, things like that. So we felt like that was a need. And then we had our dress code, we cleaned that up a little bit, changed some wording in that. We had a lot of redundancy, and so we cleaned that up. And one of the biggest things we had this year was shorts and the length of shorts. And it's a hard one. It's a hard one. So I got with several of my teachers, we threw it around a little bit, you know, what's our thoughts, that kind of stuff. Talked to Mr. Dean a little bit about it, because it affects him as well. And we used to say shorts had to be mid-thigh, and that's an issue in a lot of areas. That's the feedback that I got from our stakeholders and from our teachers even. But that was the feedback. So we changed it. They have to have a 3-inch inseam is what we asked, basically, instead. And everybody seemed to agree that was probably acceptable. On my end, you know, I'm talking kindergartners through 5th grade, you know, kindergarten, 1, 2, those kids, I think every time they come to school, they're wearing shorts, they're breaking the dress code, as it's written now. But they're 5, 6, and 7 years old, you know what I mean? So it's like, what do you do? You know, I'm not going to make a big deal out of that. So we felt like this would kind of fix that a little bit. And then as a faculty, we're going to kind of have a conversation with what expectations are. But I feel like sometimes, as with all rules, you know, some people push it hard, some people are more lax and they let it go, and that causes inconsistency. So we're going to try to at least get on the same page as a faculty and try to be as consistent as possible. I think as parents, if they just know how we're going to handle it, they're okay with it. They may not like it, but they're okay with it. It's when the inconsistency hits, and that's a lot of the feedback I got this year was, my kid, you called me a dress code, but there's 10 other kids that are breaking the dress code and they didn't get in trouble. So just trying to shore that up a little bit. And I think some of the few changes we made in there, I think will help a little bit. And that's really all I have on the handbook.
I don't think you have the rips in the jeans as bad as what our high school kids do, you?
No, 5th graders maybe.
Boy, some of ours in the high school, well, they really take it to the limit on that.
I think the biggest one I had was, we're talking second to last day of school, teacher, dress codes, a 5th grader, and Would I have done it? Probably not. It's the second to last day of school, but the teacher was following the rules, right? And sent them. And then, the mom came and brought 2 pairs of jeans. One pair was shorter than the pair that they had on, and the other pair would have met the mid-thigh, but there were cuts all the way up into the crotch area. And I'm like, I'm just standing there just, in awe. But so it didn't go well. The argument didn't go well. It just caused a lot of issues. So, and her argument was, there's 10 other girls with the same setup. Well, I'm not going around checking for it, but if they're sent to me, I deal with it. But I'm gonna admit, when that day ended, I went out to the bus lot, I watched kids enter the buses, and I didn't see anyone, really. And shit, that wasn't the only child we dress coded that day. We dress coded 5 or 6 of them. But then the next day at school, she was right. I saw them everywhere. You know what I mean? So it's like, all right, we gotta do something about this. Sometimes, Trent always says, pick the hill you're gonna die on. So we just wanna try to figure out where, where are we going to, how do you handle that? Where everyone's satisfied with it and do it consistently. I think that's the key, consistency. So, sorry, took a lot of time.
No problem. Any questions? Okay, so for the junior senior high handbook, I just went down through in the attendance, and this is actually repeated in the athletic portion. To participate in any extracurricular activity, ECA event, the student must be at school by 11 a.m. Exceptions only made for certified absences if they are gone the whole day. And so this was, discussed, and we felt this would be the way to move forward. So that, like I said, that'll come back again in the athletics section. Underneath discipline, I added out-of-school suspension back in. We still have our alternative out-of-school suspension. That is if it gets to that point, that is the way that we want to go. But if not, this needed to be in there in case we had to do that, in case a student, had to be suspended out of school. On the cell phone policy, a couple changes there. And, for things that, for example, discipline, dress code, I always meet with the student council to get input from the students as to what they want to do. And of course, you can imagine sometimes they're going to go all the way to one end and try to find that happy medium in the middle there. But for cell phones, for the second and third offense, it used to be the alternative out of school suspension. I've taken that to Thursday school, Saturday school, and then on the fourth offense, it'll be an alternative out of school suspension. Of course, no matter what, if there is a cell phone violation, an adult or an adult designee has to be the one to come pick it up. You can see there where I crossed out what was before, struck through what was before. And now it reads, students will be allowed to carry their cell phones on their body throughout the day. Cell phones may be used during passing periods and during lunch. Cell phones will not be allowed out and in use during class unless directed by the teacher. And so, you talk to the students, and some are understanding. What we had before was always in their lockers, turned off, always had it available at lunch, or at least for the past 6, 7, 8 years. And some understand, some think they ought to just be able to do it at any time. So like I said, that's kind of finding that happy medium ground there. So carrying it on their body throughout the day, use during passing period and lunch, which lunch has not been a change. And then the caveat there about if they're not to be out in class and use unless directed by the teacher.
So I'm just curious, letting them now carry it is just to give them a little bit of compromise and a little bit of opportunity to see if they can handle the responsibility?
So here's what I tell them, anytime that I said, if I were to walk down the hallway and randomly select 10 students, I'm going to get 10 cell phones. You know what I'm saying? And if I was out looking for it, and, it just becomes to a point where, not that again, it's personal responsibility, reasonable use policy, and giving them ownership. Okay, you want to have it on your body. Don't hide it. You can have it on your body, but understand, here's the guidelines that we want you to follow. So giving them that ownership, giving them a voice and hearing what they were saying, like I said, kind of striking that middle ground for everything. So that's where we go with that. On the dress code, you'll see that so the dress code's a funny thing. For years, we had a bulleted dress code that was very detailed. And, Mike had mentioned, being able to police that and police it well and do what's right. And you have some that police it, you have others that don't. And it's that, a student is called out on something, they say, well, I've walked, it may be at lunch or maybe after lunch. Well, this may be the first time I've seen it. So we went to certainly we went from one end of the spectrum to the other. And if you read through, what we did have, the ownership was placed on the students predominantly. And, there's always that caveat, violations, there's administrative discretion and so forth. And it just, talking to students, because students know, they understand. And, teachers, again, find that middle ground. So Mike and I had conversations. He shared his dress code with me. I looked at it, tweaked what I thought would fit the junior, senior high, and have kind of, again, tried to go from each end of the spectrum to the middle ground. And everything that we have there, I feel is certainly adequate. There are things that have been in there that are givens, no advertising of inappropriate materials or anything like that. That's always going to be standard. But just kind of reading down through there, shorts and skirts. One of the things that from old one in my tenure and back, is the used to be spaghetti straps. They didn't allow spaghetti straps. So it had to be 3 inches. That's not a problem. You cover the three main areas there, the 3 B's as they call it. But no, I'm not. I'm gonna let them go through that. Then, really, we're good with that. So, and that's just where we went with the dress code. And again, there was conversations had with the student council on this and talking about that, because they know. They do. Students realize what, certainly maybe some of them in their dress, but what was one and what is appropriate. And that's one of the things that we're trying to do is not only give them ownership, but also understand what is appropriate in a public setting, in a school system, in a school setting, and so forth like that.
Modesty and appropriate.
Right, exactly.
Talked about.
And then also always, there's a couple things in there, for the safety of students, maybe doing labs or something like that. They need to wear appropriate clothing for that. Particular types of plays, skits, special programs may include, with that kind of goes towards our play programs and so forth. To be understanding, and of course, dress codes always has administrative discretion at that point.
Can I jump in real quick?
Sure.
Are you done, Justin?
Yeah.
Okay. Basically, I just want to reiterate that Dave and I try to meet and try to keep this as consistent as possible, K to 12. But I think we all know that in some of this stuff, high school is a lot different sometimes than the little ones. So even though we're trying to keep it close, there's going to be some variances there. And so I just kind of want you guys to understand that a little. We're always bouncing things off of each other. So, and I think that's what we should do as administrators, is be on the same team. So we try to do that as much as we can. And the dress code one's always a hard one. Every school I've been in, it's been a hard one. So over 20 years of education experience, it's never not been hard wherever we were. So I thought we'd come to a consensus there with the stakeholders and teachers, and in your case, the students as well. So.
Yeah, and just thinking back and during my tenure, there was a time when stretch pants and yoga pants were not allowed. Well, that's common occurrence, you know what I'm saying? And so just finding that ground there where they have just other things. So, and not trying to put students at a disadvantage as well. Maybe they don't have all the means that others certainly know that. Next, under the student driving policy, all I did was add at the baseball diamond. That was not in there, but it's, it has been and is, school property, of course, and at times we've had students park down there with the construction coming in and the tennis court parking lot going to be
not accessible, we will have students parking down there. So I put that in there for that. Underneath lockers, added the use of double-sided tape is prohibited, no Scotch tape. That makes it extremely difficult for the custodians to clean and take care of, at the end of the year. So, students use ticky tack, anything like that to put those things up in the lockers. We just asked them not to use double-sided tape.
Dave, quick question, I'm sorry.
No.
You skipped over the work permit and validation. I thought work permits were no longer something that they had to have issued.
July.
I don't have that on mine, as of July 1, exactly the
They're doing away with that.
right,
Right.
the businesses are doing
Employers in
the,
charge of it.
Yeah.
right,
So are
so,
we gonna take that out then, or do you wanna?
we kind of went back to where Janice and I have been working on the handbook as far as dealing with the company and getting it printed and everything like that. And I just, as of right now, just leave it there and then take it out for next year.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely, that's
It's
gonna,
still in there. I thought, hold on, I thought that was.
I've probably issued 12 work permits in in the month of June here for kids, but you're right, that's going to the businesses. That'll be their responsibility as of July 1 to do that. Underneath prom, we just defined what eligible student is. Eligible students are defined as being in good standing regarding attendance, grades, and discipline at Bloomfield Junior Senior High School. There are already, requirements for the prom. We just wanted to define that. Then under scheduling, we added 2 paragraphs there. Under circumstances or certain circumstances, students may repeat a class. Credit will be given for the class only once. If a student chooses to retake a course, they should understand the course will only count for credit one time. Both the grades will be calculated together to get an average of the GPA. So a half credit for each on that. Both grades will show on the transcript, and a student may only retake a course one time. Earning a grade of less than C- in a course will eliminate that course for credit from an academic or technical honors. If a student chooses to retake a course in order to qualify for an academic or technical honors diploma, the student should understand that the course will only count for credit one time. Both grades will figure into the GPA as we said before above, and the grade of C- or better will be used to qualify the student for that academic honor or technical honors diploma. So giving them an opportunity. We don't, understand that. It just can't be repeated, The point of being academic honors and technical honors is being at that level, not just how many times you can retake the course and so forth. Under commencement, just changing the Bloomfield Middle High School, really did that all the way throughout, where it said Bloomfield Junior Senior High School, just had the middle and high school. Under the school closing information, they added the television stations, the newspapers, radio station, and the Facebook. We struck out a couple of channels there in the newspaper, and then we also struck out the delay of the start of school for 1 hour buses, and that you can see there in the handbook where that was struck. Underneath athletic information, the one change that I made there, it's always been, we've had this because 5/7 is greater than 70%. I just felt like because we do have some students, those that might have an IEP or something that may only have six subjects and may have a study hall with that. So I just went to the IHSA per that saying 70% of classes have to pass 70% of the classes to be eligible. Beforehand, it just said 5/7, which was, 70, whatever you want to do the math on that, but it was above 70%. So just clarifying that now, so it's not specifying 5/7, but 70%. And then, like I said before, the attendance brought itself back up again for an ECA event. Have to be there by 11 a.m. And then only exceptions again for certified absences. That's all the changes that we have.
Any further questions or comments? All right, do I have a motion? Okay, and do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor? All right, thank you. Next agenda item is,
Request for approval of memorandum of understanding for behavioral health services with the Hamilton Center. This is a requirement, law that was passed. and you have to abide by it to get the school safety grant, which I've been working on this week. It's due June 30th. And this is the only piece I need to attach to that grant application, so I can send that to them. And it's something we should have, with social emotional learning, and we should have some type of MOU with our local behavioral health center, and this is that. So just look for approval.
Is this, I should have asked before, I didn't see anything in here about cost, or is that?
That is through the insurance of the
Okay.
bank.
Is there any questions? All right, do we have a motion?
I'll motion.
Okay, and a second?
Second.
All right, thank you. All in favor? All right, and next agenda item.
Solar energy proposals. We had a presentation by,
Influence.
thank you, Influent Energy, did a great job, Kurt Haywood, and just kind of summarizing his proposal and how it would benefit our school in the savings. And I also was approached by Performance Services, and so I said, hey, we had someone give us a quote, go ahead and I'll look at yours also. And so I've included both of them. And so it just kind of, after that meeting, it just kind of stalemated a little bit. I think there was some mixed feelings about it. And so I guess I'm just at that point asking you, have a little discussion. Do you want me to continue to look at that at some point? If we were to do this is a high enough money, cost enough that we have to get an official bidding process and get 3 bids to accept a bid to actually move forward. I guess the question is, do you want me to continue to move forward with this and do that? Do you want me to wait on this, think about it longer, or are we kind of, we're not, I don't think we're too interested in moving forward. So just some discussion, I guess, is what I'm looking for at this point on that.
Have you had a chance to contact some other schools that have done this?
I did that initially with Influent, and some have loved it, and some have not.
I just didn't know if we generate enough electricity to benefit from this.
Well, you saw the cost
Yeah.
savings benefits, so there's benefits financially, and obviously it's cleaner energy, and it's a push from the government to get cleaner energy. And, part of the deal, like Duke Energy, they're trying to get a certain percent for government regulations of clean energy versus regular electrical energy. And so that's why some of this is being pushed, because they in a sense can buy that solar energy and it meets their criteria of laws.
Duke's getting a bigger kickback off of it.
I don't know if I said that clear. What's that?
Duke's getting a bigger kickback off of it.
I don't know if kickback's the right word, but meeting regulations for energy that are in the laws. If that makes
So
sense.
would this have a benefit for Duke as well then?
Yes.
My biggest concerns were, one, I noticed that the inverter lifespan was only 20 years. And this is a 25-year lease with a lifespan of the solar panels being 30 years. So what happens when those inverters go out at 20 years? What's that gonna cost us to get those replaced? And then also the fact that because it is a 30-year lease or 25-year lease, but expected to be there for 30 years, is there anything else in the future that we could potentially want to use that land for that will no longer be able, we're already landlocked. And so in order for us to, if that's going to be there, it's there. It's not going anywhere for 30 years. Are we going to be able to use? Is there something else we want that land for?
After the warranty up, the cost would be us. And at that point, I think you'd only guess what it would cost at that point to replace it.
Yeah.
You could say that the technology would improve, that could be, I doubt it would be cheaper, but, you know, it could be the technology could be better and it could be made so that it's not an extreme cost at that point. Or the cost of those things could go up. I mean, just, it's hard to predict 20 years. And really, that's kind of the same answer to your second question is we don't, right now, I mean, that's never been used except for the cross-country course, what I understand. And now we've got a new cross-country course. And so I don't, you know, I know that's pretty wet out there. Vale said that's, and a lot of times they can't even mow it in the summer. Troy, I guess you can testify that.
Yeah.
It's probably not going to be great land for building anything on there. They already checked that, it's fine for the solar panels. I'm not necessarily pushing it.
Yeah, right.
It was presented to me over, you saw how much money the school can save. You know, it varies a little bit, almost $2 million. And as I think about a new building project, the extra cost of providing energy to that could be a way to save our operation, offset that cost.
I think it's a good thought, and it just makes me a little concerned about that. It's a big
Idea
decision.
about putting them on the roof, is that still out of the question? To put some panels on the roof at some point, instead of taking up all of that space? Because, you know, obviously we have a lot of space on the roof here, especially with the addition.
I
Both-
think, didn't they mention?
Both companies leaned against that, but go ahead, yeah.
Yeah, they had mentioned because the lifespan of the solar panels was greater than the lifespan of the roof, that if we ever had to replace the roof, and then,
Trent, what you said you contacted some schools and got positive and feedback and negative. What was the negative that schools, can you remember?
The negative one was on the roof, and it ended up being their expense to move those panels to fix the roof. One, they did not have as much savings as they were told they were going to have. The other ones, it was the opposite, it was great, good savings for us. They used it as part of their curriculum for STEM. And in both organizations can do this, where we can have a display of that energy, and they even have school lessons that can teach about electrical energy and how what we have out there, how it's saving money for the school, and how it's cleaner. And there's lessons about that as part of the curriculum, and the display that shows how much your energy you're saving on an ongoing basis.
and the other thing was the electricity escalation rate, it's at 3%, which I think is what Duke's inflation rate is for this year, but I didn't know if we would expect that to check. Is 3% like the standard inflation rate for electricity, or is that just some arbitrary number that? I guess-
No, that's based on research, and I think that's higher than, yeah, that's what they told me.
So with the schools, and I'd be curious, with the schools that they're not seeing the savings that they were presented with, so let's say we do this, and we're looking, because the savings look really nice, but if we don't have that savings, is that part of the, I mean, is it just kind of like we're out of luck? Like, or is it part of the contract with them that we will see this a percentage at least? I mean, I don't know, you know, or are we just gonna be stuck and then we made a bad decision?
I asked them about that, and they said they can't guarantee it, because they can't predict sunlight and all that, you know, it's hard to, when they can do an average over the last, I think the calculation was an average over the last 5 years. So they can, you know, if history repeats itself, this is what it should be, but they said their numbers are really modest, that they're confident that it'll at least be this, but I guess not confident enough to guarantee it.
Well, I think he mentioned also that because these numbers were taken from COVID times, that won't play a part. And we're also gonna have this big addition that's going to be utilizing more energy as well, so I figured those things.
It
would
could be something that we
positive.
could revisit once the building is done and then see what the numbers could look like too. I mean, because that's gonna change once you add.
I think there are a lot of variables that right now with COVID and the building project that could influence how much energy savings we'll actually have.
And I'm comfortable waiting. There's a lot going on. right now. And
I'm interested in
the
this, I
problem
think
with waiting, is it gonna cost more? Are we gonna get as much savings?
Yeah, I mean, I don't feel like it's something that we have to rush into and what do we,
Right. And then, will there be a fence around this? Will they, and then they'll provide that fencing, I'm guessing. And as far as upkeep, are we, will we have to do any maintenance for these or? they-
I think he said they took care of that, right?
So there's no
Don't take care of it,
cleaning,
everything.
anything. Obviously, they're gonna be more effective if they're not covered in.
we're not putting out there with my
Dust. I know. Is someone gonna be hosing them off every day to make them
Wardrobe
more
pick 'em up.
effective?
Okay, I'll take August, I want it hot.
Yeah.
Um,
But both of them recommend that same area there.
I have an idea. Why don't you let them do a trial on our new heel building? And I'll let you know what the, we can be a big,
Okay.
like a tester.
You need a
for
guinea
you.
pig?
A guinea pig. I'll gladly be a guinea pig if they wanna put some up at heel for us, and I'll let you know how it goes.
Well, waiting a little bit, maybe we can get, because this is really starting to be more of a push, and I think Kurt explained that there were some barriers of doing this in Indiana for a while, and those barriers are no longer.
Mhm.
And so there's been a push in Indiana, so it could give us some time, instead of being some of the first ones that have done it as a school, letting some other people do the trial and see how well it's worked for them, and get a little more information, and then decide if it's good for us. The risk, I think, with that is you maybe not, the pricing may be different by then, but it could be cheaper, I don't know. It is, because they improve technology, sometimes they can make things cheaper.
Did they say how long this is good for?
I did not ask
Usually
that.
30 days.
Yeah, that's what I figured,
I'll be honest that I have a little bit of a biased negativity toward it because of where it's located in my backyard. But
I kind of was thinking
Over
the
your
same
way.
thing
but maybe you
myself.
can hook up a generator.
Oh, you did?
Work a deal with
He'll
it.
jump at that.
I've heard people doing deals, that, hey, you put it there, as long as I get get energy from it for free.
it's, obviously, it's not directly in my backyard, so it doesn't really directly affect me that way, but I'm pretty sure that some of our neighbors down there would not be very happy with that in their backyard.
I don't think our community will like to see it out there, but if it's saving us money too, but I mean.
Yes. The other thing too is that aside from that, I know, obviously we're doing more construction, getting rid of the track and the tennis courts and things like that. At one point in time, and I'm kind of dating myself, Mary Jane was the elementary principal, Mary Jane Van Dievener, there was a big push for trying to create more green space for kids and for PE and that kind of thing. And we've kind of eliminated pretty much all our green space now by taking the playground away or the track away and all that area into there. But I know we don't utilize that area now for anything like, recess or PE, but I don't know why we don't, I guess. It's a nice area down there for, I know there's been times when they've had like, different groups have had flag football and we've done things like that down there. It seems like PE, a lot of times we're just going outside and playing at the park, or doing some of those kinds of things when, we could be going down there and teaching, fundamentals of football or, whatever it may be, using that space down there because it's a big space.
Big space, but you gotta come back up to get out.
Little kids, the
Frisbee
teachers,
golf course.
teachers and me, what's that?
Frisbee golf course.
Yeah, stuff like that. I just feel like we've eliminated all our green space, around the school. We need some.
I agree.
In order to save.
Would it be more usable if it was more elevated? I mean, are we gonna have any extra fill that we could push over in that direction from our building project to kind of make that not quite as low, so that it.
Or what about the
Most of the field's
lots?
gonna be-
Don't we own some lots back here on the backside across the road? What's happening to that ground sitting down there? That's a lot of green space across the road where the houses that we bought. You know, we could put a fence around that and turn that into a nice open area for kids to green space.
Yeah,
And it's got a lot more shade there too,
What did they say?
Unless-
There's houses there, that would be the only.
on that end.
What did they say about the land across the street, the highway?
the running under the highway, the,
They couldn't do it, I thought they said they could do it, it would just change some of the,
Probably the farther you get away.
it would be
the
more
less-
expensive, I think, to run the
You're just gonna get
power.
less savings. There's a lot of, laws and regulations.
Which makes-
Oh, yeah,
across
you
the
have to get
highway.
NDOT involved
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
right. You have to-
I feel like it's hard, like we probably wanna wait.
And I'm totally fine with that. I just felt like it was kind of at that point where
I don't think any of us
Kinda
are all
want
like, yeah,
some
let's just do
direction of
this.
what you don't want to keep moving forward with it or just wait for a while.
I think it's a good idea, it just makes me a little nervous, there's so many variables and so much.
Get a building project under our feet a little bit, get a little ground going, and then go, okay, do we want to talk about it again? Yeah, do some more research. 6 months would be a good,
Right, I agree.
table it.
You like those goats so much, you could put, if it's hard to
We
mow,
could
just
have a
put
goat- we
yourself
could
a
have a
goat
goat
farm
too.
out there, and then you won't have to mow it.
Make
I'm
your
sure
own
the ag
butter.
department would like that.
You wouldn't have to mow it.
Homemade ice cream.
See, and help out our cafeteria cause, get the goat milk.
Yeah.
Just saying, we're saving money left and right.
I'll let you have Turner after school for 2 hours before I get off work, so we can get into him.
I'll give you 250, you're free.
Free.
All right, our next agenda item is superintendent report.
Okay, so just put some highlights in your packet there from our leadership meeting and just kind of pulled out maybe some of the key ones I want to say here at the board meeting. And just, overall, it was a good year in spite of the pandemic and the weather that we had there for a while. I feel like we're seeing the light at the end of the tunnel in this pandemic. And so just kind of want to talk about the 21-22 school year intent. Not making this official yet, but kind of plan to do that in July. We will continue to follow the requirements of the CDC, state and local health departments, as we've been doing from the beginning. I feel like it's important to listen to the health experts, and we will. The superintendents are going to meet with our local health director, Shirley Lewis, and discuss. We want to be as in sync as possible as a county, and listen to our local health director that, obviously get the information from the state and the CDC. But right now, our intent and where it looks like it's heading is masks and vaccinations are optional. We will deal with COVID situations on a case-by-case basis. We will be in person next year, and the intent, the hope is to be back as normal as possible. Virtual learning options are there, but it must be cleared with the building level administration through an application process. And we're looking at the best interest of the student to be successful academically, obviously to be healthy as well. So that just kind of wanted to share that because I've had questions. I imagine people have talked about it. I know a lot of people probably don't want to talk about it. Let's just have summer and let's just live our life. And when it gets closer to school, we can make decisions. And I kind of feel that way too. The landscape of this is, like I said, the light at the end of the tunnel, you can see it, where we're getting back to normalcy. So I feel like we should give as much time as possible. We do have a back to school plan that we approved last year, a reentry plan that's already on the website, and I've included the CDC recommendations at that point on our website. So that was approved. We have a return to school plan already posted and approved by the school board last year. And we're in essence, that's still in place. But there's obviously adaptations and changes in process. Even the CDC has just mentioned that they are gonna update, I think, the 10th of the month, their recommendation. So to make us definite one at this point, we have one that's been approved, that is in place. To make an updated one at this point, I think is a little early, because even the CDC said they're making adaptations during the 10th. So, so just wanted to share that with you. Any questions on that, I guess, before I move to the other bullet points? Okay. Registration for next school year, we had a registration meeting about a few weeks ago. We'll begin online July 30th. Live registration days are August 2nd, 8 to 3, and August 3rd, 11 to 7, and we will send out more details as it gets closer to that, with the exact instructions and what everybody needs for that, for registration. The building project is progressing effectively. I did send you guys some pictures, and I sent it out to the staff as well. The cabinets are being put in the elementary classrooms. The floor is up. There has been there's some moisture in the floor, so we're talking about using an upgraded adhesive to make sure that floor, and there will be some additional costs with that. We're working out what exactly those costs are going to be right now. We are also looking at maybe adding, part of the reason for that moisture is the drainage from the houses on the east side. And so they're looking at that drainage on the east side to see if we can have some improvements to that, because a strong adhesive helps the floor, but it doesn't solve the root of the problem. So we're looking at the root of the problem on the drainage on the east side. So we have enough contingency money to make some of these changes, fortunately, because the bids came in great. And so we will want to make wise decisions. We don't want to put a floor in that's going to come up. So we're in the process of that. I feel like there was something. Well, you see on the south side, they're really digging up down there because there's been drainage issues on the south side. That was identified from the beginning of this building project, and they're working on that. But it just, again, that may, since they're working on that, they may extend it on that east side of the building and address some of those drainage issues as well. I think that's it for now on that. Any questions on the building project? Okay. We have, this is just literally today. If you remember, I kind of sent that budget out for ESSER 3. We'd already had ESSER 2 approved. ESSER 3 got approved today. So what I had presented to you is kind of a plan for that budget that is officially approved by the state today. There's something else that I could put on. Oh, when he talked about the middle school, remember I had to submit a request for a middle school number. So we're elementary, middle school, high school. That's been submitted. I really should hear, I don't think there'll be any problems with that. I didn't act like there's any concerns, but official approval with our actual number, I should be getting that any day. So that's in process. Do want to announce the cross-country course. We're talking the South Complex here. The cross-country course is going to move out to the South Complex. Our team, Matt Bales, Troy over here, they've been working on establishing that, putting post markers for where that's going to be. We're going to have an excavator to flatten that out so we're not breaking ankles, with the divots in there, and put material down that's better to run on in certain areas where it's needed. That is all in process. So it is going to be a one lap, 5K cross-country course, and that is rare. And it is going to be a very tough course. We thought this was tough, going
What the kids told me.
three laps on that long hill. All right. I challenge all of you
No thanks.
to take a lap on that
No desire.
when that's ready to run on. But we do, our tennis courts out there, our track out there, talk to Mr. Bales, talk to Administrator. It's open to the public. So if the public wants to go out there and use those facilities, obviously take care of them. If they're not taken care of, we'll have to close them to the public. We need them to be taken care of, but we want them to be available to the public to go out there and use, but no motorized vehicles, bicycles, skateboards, et cetera, allowed on those. That's hurt the tennis court, it hurt the track, and we don't want divots in the cross-country field or track as well, course, I should say. So, but just want to know that is available out there, and it's would be a great place to walk. And play some tennis, right, Mr. Dowd?
Yes.
Yeah, no. He's a tennis guy.
There was about 5 or 6 cars out there when I came in, people out there using it.
Somebody used it about 5 o'clock in the morning. I see a car out there on my way to work. They'll be out there walking.
Well,
Yeah.
I would walk it, I just wouldn't run it.
first day of school for students is Tuesday, August 10th. And we hope everybody's having a great summer, looking forward to a great 2021-22 school year.
All right, thank you. Do we have any board member comments and items for future agendas? All right, seeing none, our future meetings is going to be July 29th and August the 26th. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Darren, I won't be at the next one. I'll be at it.
All right.